All right, grab your hiking boots because today's explainer is taking us on a seriously grueling, spectacularly beautiful 320-kilometer epic adventure that dates all the way back to the 9th century. We're talking about the Camino Primitivo. And let me tell you, this isn't just a hike. It's an ancient, punishing, and profoundly rewarding journey where you are literally retracing the footsteps of kings. If you're looking for a genuine physical challenge and some real wilderness solitude, you are absolutely in the right place.
Here's how we're breaking down today's explainer. We'll start with the call to adventure, then we'll tackle the mountain trials, move into solitude and Asturian culture, and wrap things up with the ultimate 16-day route blueprint.
So part 1, the call to adventure. Let's look at the 9th century origins of the Primitivo and see exactly how this incredible journey was born.
Picture this. It's the 9th century. In 813 AD, word spreads like wildfire that the tomb of the Apostle St. James has just been discovered out in a remote field in Galicia. Now, King Alfonso II of Asturias, they called him the Chaste, doesn't just send a messenger to check it out. In 829 AD, he personally sets out from his capital in Oviedo to authenticate the relics himself. Fast forward to 1899 AD, and you get the consecration of the second basilica in Santiago. Because of Alfonso's trek, the Primitivo is the absolute oldest route in the entire Camino network. You're walking the exact path of the very first pilgrim king.
There's actually an old saying that perfectly captures the historical prestige of this route. Whoever goes to Santiago and not to the Salvador visits the servant and ignores the master. See, way before the Camino Frances became this massive medieval highway, Oviedo was the vital VIP starting point. The Cathedral of San Salvador in Oviedo housed some incredibly important relics of its own, including the Holy Shroud. So for centuries, the belief was that if you skipped Oviedo, you were basically ignoring the master to go visit the servant in Santiago. Kind of puts the history into perspective, right?
Okay, moving on to part 2, the mountain trials. Stepping out of the history books and onto the trail, let's explore the physical reality of conquering the Cantabrian Mountains.
When people think of the Camino, they usually picture these super crowded paths. But get a load of this. Out of hundreds of thousands of pilgrims every year, only about 5%, so roughly 15,000 people, actually brave the Primitivo. Why? Because it is tough. But honestly, that difficulty is a total blessing because it acts like a filter, protecting its authentic wilderness character. If you want genuine solitude, hiking for days through ancient oak forests with wild horses and empty mountain ridges completely away from the crowds, this is 100% your route.
But you really got to earn that solitude. Over 8,000 meters. That is the staggering cumulative elevation gain you're going to face on this journey. To put that into real terms, you're basically climbing the height of Mount Everest, just spread out over a couple of weeks. You are constantly going up and down. It never really stops. It's hands down the most physically demanding regular Camino route. You'll be battling rocky paths, this notoriously sticky Asturian clay mud, and crazy steep drops that are going to absolutely test your knees. And all of this intense terrain builds up to the biggest decision you'll make on the whole trail. Usually around day 6, in the town of Borres, every pilgrim hits a crossroads. Do you take the high Ruta de los Hospitales or the lower Pola de Allande valley? Hospitales is the legendary highlight. You're hiking these breathtaking mountain crests at over 1,300 meters, getting 360-degree views, and walking right past crumbling medieval pilgrim hospitals. But there are 0 services for 22 kilometers. None. And if the weather turns to fog or lightning, it is genuinely dangerous up there. Pola de Allande, on the flip side, is your safer, weather-friendly backup plan. It drops down into these charming little villages where you can actually stop and grab a hot coffee if it's pouring rain.
All right, on to part 3, solitude and Asturian culture. Let's talk about the pilgrim's reward, because with all these physical trials come some incredible cultural payoffs.
To reward you for those brutal climbs, the Primitivo manages to hold on to this beautiful tradition that has mostly vanished from the busier routes, the authentic Donativo albergue. These are traditional, donation-based hostels built on radical simplicity and unconditional kindness. Spots like Albergue Bodanaya keep that pure, old-school Camino spirit alive. Because there's maybe a dozen of you walking the exact same stage, you form these deep, instant bonds. You drag yourself in totally exhausted, they welcome you like family. You share a big communal dinner around a single table, swap stories by candlelight, and just leave whatever donation you can to keep the magic going for the next group.
And speaking of dinner, to survive those mountains, you are going to need serious calories, and the local mountain cuisine is your ultimate fuel. While you're in Asturias, you've got to recover with fabada. It's this ridiculously rich, slow-cooked white bean stew packed with chorizo. Or maybe you take on a cachopo, which is basically a giant breaded meat and cheese masterpiece. You wash it all down with sidra, a traditional tart cider that bartenders dramatically pour from way up high over their heads just to aerate it perfectly. Then, once you cross the border into Galicia, it is all about the pulpo a la galega, perfectly tender octopus seasoned with olive oil and paprika. It's so good.
And finally, part 4, the 16-day route blueprint. Let's dive right into the ultimate treasure map, the detailed, stage-by-stage itinerary you've been waiting for.
Okay, looking at days 1 through 5, you can really see exactly what I meant by that relentless rolling terrain. Right out the gate on day 2, heading from Oviedo to Grado, bam, you're hit with a 25-kilometer stage, up to 700 meters of elevation gain, and an even steeper 800-meter drop. Day 3 to Salas keeps the pressure totally on with another 23 kilometers and big climbs. Day 4 pushes you up through rural forests toward Teneo for 20 kilometers, gaining around 850 meters. Day 5 to Borres is your one little breather. It drops down to a 16-kilometer distance with slightly milder climbs. And that's deliberately designed to let your legs recover right before you face the really high peaks.
Because right here, days 6 through 10 is where it gets real. Day 6 is your epic 25-kilometer Hospitales stage if the weather holds up, packing in over 1,000 meters of climbing before a 750-meter drop into Berducedo. Day 7 is a brutal, knee-shaking 20-kilometer descent down to the Salim Reservoir. Seriously, trekking poles are absolutely mandatory for this. Day 8 is a massive milestone, a demanding 26-kilometer push where you finally cross the mountain border out of Asturias and into Galicia, arriving in Fonsagrada. From there, Day 9 brings 24 kilometers of rolling Galician countryside, leading right into Day 10, which is a massive 30-kilometer march to reach the ancient Roman-walled city of Lugo.
Almost there. Let's look at the home stretch. Day 11 is a super highly recommended rest day in Lugo. Soak your feet, check out the history, recover. Days 12 and 13 offer some much gentler rural walking, with a long but quiet 27-kilometer stretch to Feira. But hey, halfway through Day 13, you hit Melide and the whole vibe shifts. You merge with the Camino Frances. Suddenly, your quiet, solitary trail joins a bustling highway of thousands of other pilgrims. Days 14 and 15 ease up a lot, with shorter 15 and 20-kilometer hops winding through beautiful eucalyptus forests. And then, Day 16, you make your final 20-kilometer triumphant victory lap right into the Grand Plaza of Santiago de Compostela, ending right at the steps of the cathedral.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one big thought. The Camino Primitivo is not just a casual stroll. It demands crazy preparation, serious resilience, and a willingness to embrace the discomfort. But knowing about the grueling mud, the 8,000 meters of relentless climbing, and that incredibly sweet payoff of true wilderness solitude and community waiting for you, are you ready to answer the call? Think about it. Maybe it's time to start breaking in those hiking boots.